Lecture 12, The Two Key Elements of Leadership Stories, Part 1. This is the 12th lecture of the leadership course. Do you remember my definition of leadership? Leadership is about mobilizing people to solve problems. How do we mobilize people? In the first 3 lectures, I talked about a basic method, which is to build relationships. Starting from this lecture, I will use the next 3 lectures to introduce a more advanced method, called storytelling. The theme of this lecture is the 2 key elements of leadership stories. These 2 elements are very important. If you master these 2 elements, you have already mastered half of the skills needed to use storytelling to demonstrate leadership. 1. Why do leaders need to tell stories? Before discussing the 2 key elements, let me first explain why storytelling is essential for effective leadership. Think about it. Leadership is about mobilizing people to solve problems. If not through storytelling, then what else can we use to achieve this goal? In real life, we often use another approach: reasoning. We believe that as long as we make others understand the reasoning, they will take action. However, in reality, people often do not take action even if they understand the reasoning. Let me give you an example. How many people do you think stick to exercising at least once a week? Do you? I have conducted many small surveys and found that only about 1/3 of people raise their hands and say they exercise at least once a week. Do you think the other 2/3 of people understand the importance of exercising? They do, but they do not take action. Why don't they take action even though they understand the reasoning? Because to make us take action, especially to make us take difficult actions, the most important thing is not to convince our rational minds but to touch our emotions. Why is touching emotions more effective than touching reasoning and making us take action? The reason is very ancient and comes from our human nature. Because humans evolved from monkeys, monkeys do not have rational minds but have instincts and emotions. The actions of monkeys are not due to reasoning but to instincts and emotions. Humans are different from monkeys. We have rational minds to guide our actions, which is great, but when monkeys become humans, it is not that reason replaces emotions, but that the emotional system in the brain still exists, and a rational system is added on top of it. However, this new rational system often cannot defeat emotions. First of all, the emotional system is older, and the rational system is newly evolved. When encountering problems, the brain first activates the emotional system. Even if the brain sometimes activates the rational system, because the rational system is the last to evolve and is a relatively new system, the brain is not proficient in using it. Therefore, due to evolutionary reasons, although reason can make us take action and make us change, emotions are more likely to make us take action and make us change. If reason and emotions conflict, who do you think will be the winner? Generally speaking, it is emotions. Let me give you an example. There is a psychologist named Jonathan Haidt who wrote a very good book on psychology called The Elephant and the Rider. One of the themes of this book is the conflict between reason and emotions. Haidt gave an example that happened to him. When he was a graduate student, he read a book that mentioned a point of view that large-scale animal husbandry is immoral for animals. Haidt was completely convinced by this book from a rational perspective. He agreed that large-scale animal husbandry is immoral. But he also found that he was morally opposed to it, but his behavior did not change, and he still liked to eat meat. However, one day, he saw a video of animals being slaughtered in a slaughterhouse. Let me read Haidt's original words to you. He said, "When I saw herds of cattle walking towards the bloody dismemberment conveyor belt, first being hit hard, then being hooked up, and finally being cut into pieces, my inner fear reached its peak." After watching the video, he became a vegetarian completely. You see, although Haidt's rational mind was convinced, he did not change his behavior. Only when Haidt's emotions were touched did he change his behavior. 2.2 Key elements that evoke emotions. Therefore, the most important task for leaders to mobilize people for change is not to appeal to reason, but to evoke emotions. The two key elements of leadership stories that I mentioned earlier are actually the two elements that evoke emotions. There seem to be many elements that can evoke emotions, but if I asked you to distill them into two, what do you think they would be? Let me tell you the two key elements that I have distilled, which also come from our evolved nature as human beings. The first key element is imagery. The more vivid the imagery, the more it evokes our emotions. Why is that? It goes back to evolution. Humans evolved from monkeys, who do not understand abstract concepts. If you tell a monkey about a banana, it doesn't know what you're talking about. But if you show a monkey a picture of a banana, you can evoke its instincts and emotions. For example, if I want to motivate you to donate to the Hope Project, I could tell you about how many children in rural areas are unable to attend school, or how many children in mountainous regions cannot afford school supplies. This could also evoke your emotions. However, these words may not be as effective as a vivid photograph that can evoke your emotions. You must remember the famous photograph of the big-eyed girl from the Hope Project. The image of that girl had a greater impact than 1,000 words because imagery evokes emotions. The second key element that evokes emotions is proximity. The closer something is to us, the more it evokes our emotions. This proximity includes physical distance, but mainly psychological distance. For example, there are similar projects to the Hope Project in Africa. It is easier to motivate you to donate to the Hope Project in China than to a similar project in Africa. Why is that? To explain this, we must go back to evolution and our innate nature as human beings. Because humans evolved from monkeys, our earliest sense of identity was with the monkeys around us, our tribe, and our community. We have a deeper emotional connection with them. The closer the proximity, the greater the emotional resonance. Therefore, the second key element of a good story is proximity. The closer the story is to the audience, the more it evokes emotions and resonates with them.